How to stop comparing yourself to others. It's really hard to be on social media and not compare yourself to others. Your body isn't good enough, your wardrobe isn't trendy enough, and your house isn't pottery barn enough. It might even make you feel like you aren't enough. I'm talking to myself too. I'm totally fascinated and intrigued by how these beautiful, successful people live their lives. If I'm not careful, I can wind up spending hours a week scrolling through the lives of these people I may or may not even know, and it leaves me feeling not so great on myself. So, several years ago, I made a goal to stop comparing myself to others. And let me tell you, it hasn't been easy. With 24/7 access to view the best parts of everyone's lives right on my phone, I know exactly how I measure up against every other mom, wife, and speaker with a social media account. Comparison steals our joy, our paychecks, and our sanity. If we don't stop comparing ourselves to others, we'll constantly spend money and mental energy just trying to keep up. We need to break the comparison cycle because it's a game we never win. The root of comparison. There is actually a biological reason we are prone to comparing ourselves to others. Our brain uses comparison to figure out how we measure up to other people. Thomas Muswiller, a professor of organizational behavior, describes comparison this way: it's one of the most basic thoughts or basic ways we develop an understanding of who we are, what we're good at, and what we're not so good at. Most of the time, this calculation is made in a split second in the background and we don't even realize it. But when we dwell on the highlights of other people's lives, it can quickly become toxic. We're wired for connection and belonging, but if we constantly compare ourselves to others, we're putting our happiness, confidence, and mental health at risk. Real life effects of comparing yourself to others. There are so many negative effects of this comparison trap, and I'm sure you've felt them before. Here are a few that I've seen time and time again. Negative and anxious thoughts that are hard to come out of, known as rumination. Higher rates of anxiety and depression. Overspending in effort to keep up with the Joneses. Study after study has shown that people feel worse about themselves after spending time on social media, and all the negativity is taking its toll on our mental health and our bank accounts. A recent study found that keeping up with the Joneses causes financial distress, and they discovered that in neighborhoods where someone won the lottery, the bankrupts were more likely to make large, visible purchases, and this is crazy to me. Go bankrupt. You guys, these bankruptcies 100% avoidable. This isn't a money issue, it's a hurt issue. Those people saw the neighbors get an upgrade in lifestyle and all of a sudden they thought they needed one too, even though they couldn't afford it. Well, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a little luxury as long as it fits in your budget. However, when you pile up a bunch of stuff and go neck deep into debt to buy it all just to impress your neighbor in person or on Instagram, you don't even really own your stuff. It owns you. The debt takes over and steals all your income, and you suddenly become a servant to the things you thought would make you happy. I don't want you to form decisions out of comparing yourself to others. So if you're ready to put the blinders on, stop comparing yourself to everyone else and focus on your life. I want to show you how. So here are 8 practical ways to stop comparing yourself to others. This is something I'm still working on myself. However, I can share with you some specific steps I've taken and principles I've applied to my own life to help me take my eyes off of others people and put them back on creating a life I love. Number 1, practice gratitude. This one habit changed everything for me. Several years ago, I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed out 3 things I could be grateful for right then and there. I wrote, early, quiet mornings before anyone is awake, my health, coffee. Those were the first 3 things that came to mind. I didn't spend much time analyzing or dwelling on the goodness of my life, and I certainly didn't shed a tear. There was not a Hallmark movie moment. I'm not sure I even felt much change at the time. But now, that Notes app is my lifeline. What started as a simple gratitude experiment has grown to encompass every kind of joy, both big and small, that floods my life. I add to the list each morning, and I revisit the list whenever I need a reminder of God's care and blessings in my life. Wait, let me take a sip of water because I'm kind of thirsty right now. I am grateful that I have water to drink because, yeah. 2. Unlock the power of contentment. Gratitude leads to contentment, which allows you to be in state of joy and satisfaction no matter what your circumstances. You're happy with where you are in life and aren't worried about what other people are doing. That doesn't mean you don't have goals for the future or that you aren't working toward being a better person tomorrow than you are today. And it definitely doesn't mean that you are stagnant or that you are choosing to sit around and do nothing new, exciting, and challenging with your life. It just means that you develop a space about your life and a sincere enjoyment about what you have today without basing all your happiness on what you hope to achieve tomorrow. Focus on your strengths. You can be humble and still recognize your strengths, talents, and accomplishments. You don't have to beat yourself up to be humble. In fact, that's a pretty unhealthy approach, and it's one of the biggest dangers of comparison living. The more we compare ourselves to others, the worse we feel about ourselves. That's a dangerous trap we've got to avoid. Writing down 3 things you really like about yourself, things you can identify as strengths. Don't just write good people skills like you'd put on a boring resume. Make them personal. Here are 3 of mine. I am proactive. I like accomplishing things, so whether it's responding to edits on my next book or making dinner reservations, I'm always looking ahead and taking action. I love people. I may or may not have won Brentwood High School's friendliest superlative or my senior class. I really have always enjoyed being around people. Learn to compete with yourself instead of others. Instead of focusing on where you're compared to others, focus on your own goals. Where you compare to where you were this time last year or 5 years ago. One of the reasons I journal is because it does wonderful things for my sanity. It gives me clarity and perspective about God's blessings in my life. Plus, it's just a lot of fun to go back and thumb through the pages of old journals to see how much I've grown. In the past years, you've learned, stressed, improved, accomplished, and created. Think about how much of that you've done in your lifetime. If you're like me and you've kept journals, go back through them. If you haven't, there's no better time to start journaling than today. Have boundaries about how much time you spend on social media. As we've been talking about, comparison through social media can have a massive effect on our mental well-being. Here are some boundaries you can put in place to protect yourself. Unfollow any accounts that tend to make you feel bad about yourself. Set a timer and allow yourself to scroll for only 30 minutes. When time is up, step away from social media, my friend. Alright, so that's pretty much everything.